Good evening and welcome to the June edition of the Town of Kent Zoning Board of Appeals. Before we begin, will everyone please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My first application before us this evening is that of Frank Corporelli, 14 Elmsford Road, Carmel. Come on up, Mr. Corporelli. I'd also remind everyone, if you have any green cards, return receipts, please bring them up. Thank you, sir. Go over to the podium and sign in like the game show, and you can tell us why you're here tonight. Thank you.
So the reason we're here is that in September we bought a house, 14 Elmsford Road, with a violation of an exceeding shed. I got a picture if you guys want to see. There was an extension from a shed to a garage. Everything, it's like there is no use, crooked, and so I want to clean up the violation and install a new shed.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the existing property. It's gonna be in the same place that this shed is.
Yeah, that's what I gathered from the drawing.
Yes.
Okay. I'll open it up to the board for any commentary.
But it's going to go back further, right? I mean, it's not going to be a new one in the exact footprint of the old one, as I understand it. Isn't it going to be extending further backwards?
Well, the new shed, there will not be the extension to the garage no more. It will be just a shed for, you know.
Oh, without the...
No attached to the garage.
Standalone.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
standalone, yes. That's how it was before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? I particularly don't have an issue with this application. With that in mind, do I have a motion to approve?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
You can follow up with the building department.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, next application up is that of Julia Vishnopolsky, 69 Clubhouse Drive, Carmel, New York. This is a holdover from last month.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Frank J. Smith III from the Law Office of Schilling and Smith, attorneys for the applicant, Julia Vishnopolsky, who is with me this evening. The property is located at 69 Clubhouse Drive, Carmel, New York. It is known as tax map number 33.35-1-46. The property consists of a vacant parcel. It is 8,000 square feet in size and is located in the town's R10 single-family zoning district. The relief requested this evening is dimensional in the form of area variances to permit substandard lot size and road frontage. The town code requires lots in the R10 district to have a 10,000 square foot minimum. The applicant provides 8,000 square feet, requiring a variance of 2,000 square feet. The town code also requires 100 feet of road frontage. The applicant provides 80 feet, requiring a variance of 20 feet. In support of the application, prior to this hearing, my office provided to the board a statement of facts a memorandum of law, and a list of client expenses. A brief history of the property. Before my client purchased, the existing home on the property was heavily damaged by fire. Sometime thereafter, the town ordered the house to be taken down due to its damage, and it was razed in late 2019. The property was then foreclosed on in late 2021, and the applicant purchased the property on June 17, 2022, seeking a weekend escape from her life in New York City. After the purchase, the applicant promptly hired an engineer, John Carell, to begin developing the property. Along with her engineer, the applicant obtained Department of Health approval on September 23, 2022, and the new well and septic system were installed on or about October 19, 2022, in accordance with the approved plan. During the purchase, and while the aforementioned improvements were being installed, the applicant did not think there would be an issue in obtaining town approvals due to many of the homes in the surrounding neighborhood being situated on lots of similar size. Thus far, the applicant has expended roughly $92,000 on this project. The applicant appeared before this board on March 20th, 2023 through her engineer, Mr. Carell. At that meeting, the application was argued under the incorrect standard. The application was presented under a more strict use variance standard when the basis of review should have been an area variance standard, hence our appearance before the board tonight. As the board is aware, there are 5 criteria when considering an area variance. First, and most importantly, is whether granting the variance would result in a negative impact to the surrounding neighborhood. Second, whether the need for variance can be obviated. Third, whether the variance is substantial. Fourth, whether granting the variance would result in an adverse environmental impact to the neighborhood. And lastly, whether the difficulty was self-created. For the foregoing reasons, I respectfully contend that the applicant satisfies this criteria and the variances should be granted in all respects. First, if granted, there would be no negative impact to the neighborhood. The town code requires the lot to be 10,000 square feet, and the applicant proposes 8,000 square feet. This is 80% compliant. In addition, road frontage is also 80% compliant. We provide for 80 feet when the code requires 100 feet. Also, and I find this to be very important, is that in the surrounding area, there are a number of homes located on lots of 8,000 square feet or less. For example, the homes located at 65 Clubhouse Drive, 81 Clubhouse Drive, 87 Clubhouse Drive, 61 Woodland Drive, and 71 Woodland Drive are all on 8,000 square foot lots, the same as what we propose. Additionally, the property is located at 77 Clubhouse Drive is only 4,000 square feet, the lot. The property at 72 Woodland Drive is a 4,000 square foot lot. And the property at 73 Woodland Drive is only a 6,000 square foot lot. This is not a comprehensive list, but it's telling that in one block, there's at least 8 homes that have 8,000 square feet or less. The entire neighborhood consists of lots hovering right around 10,000 square feet, many of which contain less. Should the variance be granted, there would be no negative impact to the neighborhood whatsoever. Second, the need for variance cannot be obviated. After the applicant was denied at the March meeting under the wrong standard, she retained our office. At that time, the applicant contacted her neighbor to the rear to see if it was possible to purchase additional 2,000 square feet to at least bring up the lot size amount. Unfortunately, the neighbor was not interested in portioning off a piece of his property. As such, there is no other way to obviate the need for the variance. Third is whether the variance is substantial, and I argue that it is not. As previously mentioned, the applicant is 80% compliant with lot size and road frontage, and therefore a minimal variance. For this reason, I contend that the variance is not substantial. Fourth, there will be no negative impact to the environment if the variance is granted. Lots of this size are commonplace in the neighborhood, and by granting the variance, there would be no negative environmental impact. Lastly, the difficulty was not self-created. At the time the applicant purchased the property, she was aware that a home previously existed on the lot. Additionally, the Department of Health approved her proposed well and septic system plan. The applicant did not create the dimensional deficiency. She merely purchased a property that was dimensionally deficient. Therefore, I argue that the difficulty was not self-created. Based upon these factors, I contend that when weighing the criteria of the area variance analysis, the benefit to the applicant does not result in any detriment nor adverse consequence to the surrounding neighborhood, and it should be granted. I thank you for the opportunity, and Ms. Vishnupolsky and I are available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Andy, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. You noted in your submission that, and I'm quoting now, she was assured by local officials she could reasonably expect the necessary area variances. Which local officials gave her those assurances?
My understanding is that these were verbal assurances made by the building inspector. This was at the time the applications were being submitted to the Department of Health, and that's the extent.
So the local officials were the Department of Health and the building inspector? Okay, well, I'd be shocked if the Department of Health gave any assurances with respect to zoning. I mean, we don't give assurances with respect to wells,
Of course.
and I wouldn't expect them to give assurances with respect to zoning.
But we went through the perk test, and the company that did excavation was in touch with the Department of Health Department, and Department of Health Department had additional requirements as far as like leveling and something. They totally complied, and then the inspector came and he approved. So everything was, I have this stamp of approval, paper copy. So, yeah, it was.
Yeah, but I mean, just to be clear, I know it's sometimes confusing as to who does what, but, zoning and health department are two completely separate things. And the fact that the health department might say you can have a well there and a septic system there, doesn't mean it complies with zoning laws. And as far as the building inspector, we did actually check with the building inspector, who, unfortunately can't be here today, but what he had said was that you had spoken to him prior to the purchase, but he said he did not assure you that the board would grant the variances or the variance, but you would have to apply for them. So I guess I'm just, I'm a little confused as to how we got here. I think it's very unfortunate that you spent that much money. I mean, that's, that troubles me. But I don't know how we got here.
If I may, again, my office did not become involved until after that first meeting. I think what likely happened is between all of the players involved, from engineer to contractor to construction to Department of Health, and even Mr. Walters, is that it appeared that this was a relatively straightforward application for area variance with a lot that's 80% compliant. Obviously, I think Ms. Vishnupolsky would have wished to have come and obtained this variance before doing all of this work.
Absolutely.
But given the totality of the circumstances, I think the people that she was involved with had led her to believe that it was an easier application than what the board may consider it to be.
And I think, Mr. Smith, when you were here in March, you said that there was a zoning consultant as well. Was that the engineer?
So that was part of Mr. Carell's submission from the March 20th meeting. I have a copy of his memo that he submitted, and it did make a mention that there was communication with a zoning, what was the term?
Zoning consultant. And I apologize. It was not you.
No,
It was not you, it was Mr. Carell.
No. And I don't know if they potentially had a planning consultants meeting. I know that, once a month, Mr. Barber and the other consultants get together and have that meeting. I don't know if that took place for that representation.
I can check, because I'm on those calls too, but I don't think that it was.
Okay. I don't know that.
Yeah, okay. Because I mean, what's troubling me, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but what's troubling me is that, as you correctly said, this is an R10 district. There's a 10,000 square foot minimum. Most of Kent is either 40,000 or 80,000, so as it is, 10,000 is more densely populated than most of Kent is. And to go from 10,000 to 8,000, I think you call it not substantial, but I think it is a significant reduction in the size. And you mentioned all the other properties. I'm not familiar with those properties, but The zoning law was adopted, I believe, in 1978. My guess is those houses are pre-1978. Don't know that, but that's my, I surmise that. So obviously, the town board did not want to say in 1978, those houses have to be torn down.
Of course.
And it grandfathered them, and even said, if a house is destroyed, there is 2 years to rebuild.
And this is precisely why New York State town law permits for an area variance. I mean, I think that when you consider the 5 criteria, particularly neighborhood, I mean, there's, 4 or 5 houses on the same half a block that are 8,000 square feet or less. Number one, I think that's important. And number two is that even assuming, for argument's sake, this is not a pre-existing non-conforming use. This is a permitted use in a residential district. If anything, it would be a pre-existing non-conforming lot, but the town also does not have a non-conforming lot provision in the code.
No, it said non-conforming lots or non-conforming areas, usage wrong. Non-conforming lots in 1978 could continue to have their houses.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's what's troubling me. I mean, it seems to me, and again, one person's opinion, but, it just seems to me that when I balance the applicant's desire to do this and the neighborhood and community's desire to have a cohesive neighborhood and cohesive planning, I'm just troubled by that.
I think it's about as cohesive as it gets. I mean, you got a lot on the street with a house on it that's 4,000 square feet. I mean, there's a number of homes, not just vacant lots, parcels with houses on it that are 8,000 square feet or less, literally within a stone's throw of this property.
Well, we realize that, and, but it's also important to remember that those homes were probably, in all probability, built under different circumstances in different times. Right now, this board is tasked with preserving, okay, the residential zoning as it is stipulated in town law. I would be, one thing that concerns me or bothers me is, to use Andy's words, is that your client moved forward with putting this septic system in and spent $90,000+ on this without the necessary assurances, and that tells me that that's a self-imposed hardship. She moved forward, she didn't get the proper assurances, so this is what we're tasked with. Any other board member have any commentary on this?
I do not. No.
Okay, is anyone here tonight that would like to speak on this application? Yes, sir, please come up.
We'll let him speak, and then if we have to address anything, we'll come.
Good evening. Good
evening.
evening. Happy Father's Day if any of you guys are fathers.
Thank you.
I'm the neighbor at 75 Clubhouse Drive, one house
Can
up.
you identify yourself, sir?
Michael Silvers, 75 Clubhouse Drive, one house up. Before I dive into my stuff that I probably did the last time we met, 77 Clubhouse Drive was probably older than my house. My house was built in 1950. That house was also damaged in the tornado. That house, the wall was damaged by a tornado, not fire. And it was taken down 2020, maybe 2019. The town took it down.
I believe it was 2019.
Yeah, the tornado was 2018, and trees did strike 77. That house was not torn down. That house was repaired. Modesto did a fantastic job on that house. So just to clarify that. So, a couple of things mentioned was a detriment to the neighborhood, negatively impacting the neighborhood. Ms. Vishnapolsky has been a negative impact since day one. I explained last time that heavy machines were coming in before 7 a.m. And working after 4 p.m. Heavy drilling all night, all day for multiple days for the well. They didn't put rocks down for the entryway and exitway. So when the trucks left, they left mud pucks going up the street. I didn't have many interactions with Ms. Vishnopolsky, but the first interaction was she demanding I grind a stump that's on my property so she doesn't get termites at her house. So I said, what house? She hired a tree company to come and clean up around the edges, including climbing a tree that was 5 feet over the property line on my property, climbing up there and cutting off branches on a disputed part of property. And I did talk to Bill about it. He said if it's on the property line, you know, it's kind of disputed, you know, whatever, a conversation would have been nice. But reaching over and cutting the entire bush down, now leaving like stumps on my property, not okay. And then another negative impact was more recent, May 16th. Her dog, who barks on the property whenever she's there all day, ran off the property, unleashed, not fenced in, ran out after my dog. My wife walks the dog on a leash on the way to the bus stop to get our daughter. Same thing on the way back. She asked her to leash her dog, and that was that.
Is that all you have to say, sir?
Yeah,
We thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just respond briefly. I understand that Mr. Silvers is opposed to the application, but I would just like the record to reflect that none of those items brought up have to do with the area variance analysis that the board is tasked with. I appreciate his concerns and his life as a neighbor, but again, this is dimensional relief, area variance standards related to lot size and road frontage. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member have any commentary?
Not at this time.
Yeah, I just like to say for the record, I agree we are dealing with an area variance, and it is the balancing test and the 5 factors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wells.
Okay, Mr. Smith, what we'll do is, we're going to issue you our decision in writing,
Okay.
okay? You'll have our decision within 30 days, okay? And then you can determine your next course of action after that.
Mr. Chairman, my only request would be that when the decision is finalized and sent, this is obviously a vacant property with a client who lives in the city. If I can have a copy of that sent to my office.
Sure.
It's obviously time sensitive,
Sure.
when the decision is issued.
Will do. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. And to confirm, this is closing the public hearing?
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on this application?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Well
much.
said.
Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you, too.
All right, the last matter that we need to tend to is recently, board member Ron Hansen submitted his resignation to the board. As most of you know, he was the vice chairman of the board, and he is going to pursue a happy and healthy life of retirement. So we wish him the very best of luck. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we refer board members, alternate board members, Andrew Wells and Robert Ulick, to the town board for appointment as regular members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I abstain, what happens? We don't have a quorum?
Right, you have a quorum.
Abstain, right?
I'm voting in favor of Mr. Ulrich and abstaining
There
as to
you go.
myself.
There you
Vice
go.
versa. Vera, anything else on the calendar?
Just the minutes.
Okay. The minutes for the May meeting, Assume everyone had a chance to read them at the last workshop?
Absolutely.
Okay?
Don't remember them.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay, we did distribute.
Oh, right, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? All
I'll
in
second
favor?
that motion.
Aye. So
Aye.
moved. Approved. All right, if there's nothing else before the board, do I have a motion to dismiss?
I'm so move.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you in July.